world expand, tingling in my hand, ecstatic bliss, the cosmic kiss.
Hi, I'm Christian from Belongil Bistro, and I've come here today to experience some of the fresh produce available at Byron Bay farmers markets and preparing a recipe. A really nice version of an Italian ratatouille called caponata, and we'll be looking at some of that produce today and collecting it, taking it back to the bistro and cooking it. Yeah, I reckon this bunch here looks pretty good. There's a good selection of herbs in there. We're just going to get some veal. It's raised on their farm, it's 10 months old, and they're humanely treated. They're organic. Unlike the European veal, which is, we don't want to talk about it.
Veal scallopini.
Lovely, thanks for that. So we don't need perfect tomatoes because we're going to be making a sauce with it. So I just want the ripest tomatoes possible, and I'm going to cook them down. This is that mix that you just brought out a minute ago, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Can I take a small punnet of them, please? So we've got everything we need, and we've done pretty well. We're going to be able to do pretty much everything just from the farmers markets today. So let's go back to the bistro and cook it. Back at the Belongil Bistro kitchen. There's a few steps which we're going to go through now, but it's really very straightforward. So first things first, I'm going to chop up these tomatoes. You can see that they're not in good shape, but they're ripe and they're free of pesticides, and the flavour is beautiful. Now the bunch of shallots, just take the ends off and give them a wash. So you want to finely chop the white part. And now let's get the passata, tomato passata on the go. We could go into the supermarket and we can buy this in a jar, tomato passata, or a tin of crushed tomatoes, if you want. But this is a better way of doing it. Put a lid on it and let them cook down. Now let's do the next part. Split 2 celery sticks down the middle and just cut them into squares. And we'll dice the eggplant. What's really important about these eggplant, rather than the eggplant you get from the supermarket, is they're really firm, they're quite young, and they're not full of air, like a lot of the very black skinned eggplant that you'd find normally on the shelf. Well, that passata's been going for about 2 or 3 minutes now. I'm just going to turn it down a little bit because we don't want it to catch. To about a half heat. See, they're going nicely in there. Look at the colour. You won't find that from the supermarket tomato. When I fry this eggplant after you've cooked it, as you probably know, it becomes very soft, and we don't want everything to break down to the point where it starts to puree and then turn into a sort of wet dish, like a curry. We want to try and keep the eggplant whole. So it's not a great deal of waste, but I'm just taking out these corner pieces, which I know are going to turn into puree by the time these squares have cooked. These Summerland olives that we got today, that were naturally brined, not using chemicals that we won't talk about now, but these olives were brined for about a year. I'm just going to pull the stones out with my hands, they're that soft. You can use an olive pitter if you want, but by breaking them apart like this with your hand, it gives the whole thing more of a rustic feel. This bunch of herbs. Now, we're not going to get wrapped up in tradition about this recipe. Caponata, I'm sure, is a recipe that is religiously followed by many people, but we're going to use what's available to us, and this bunch of herbs without buying whole bunches of parsley, rosemary, all that sort of thing, and then not being able to use all of it. This is a much better alternative. There's a few bugs that may have had a go at this, but that's great. It means there's no pesticides on it. So I've just picked a few of the herbs, and here you can see basil, a bit of tarragon, a bit of parsley, and rosemary. There you go, that's fine. And that's a good quantity of herbs for this. It's completely broken down. It's nice and soft. Now we're going to blend that. Now we'll chop the shallots, the tops of the shallots that we were using earlier. So reverse the bunch, remove anything that's decomposed. There always is in a bunch of shallots. And now just chop it, not too finely. When the oil's hot, don't put too much in the pan, or everything will start to stew and water will come out of them and then end up boiling and they'll be ruined. We're going to let them keep cooking, and we're going to start to cook down the main part of our caponata. So get a saucepan hot again, use more of this extra virgin olive oil, add the celery, now I'm going to add the cider that we made to the celery to cook the celery out so that it's nice and soft. Now there's tomato skins in there and there's seeds and all that sort of thing, but that's great. It's all part of the rustic character of this dish. So I'm going to add a little bit of water to this. The recipe says 50 milliliters. That will let that down and then reduce again back to its original state. I'm going to put a lid on this and leave it for about 20 minutes on a medium heat. Just keep it moving around so they get nice and brown. So these are looking pretty good now. I'm going to get them off and I'm going to put them onto a piece of paper. Using a sieve, just strain the seeds, the eggplant seeds, out of that oil. You don't want to waste it. So the celery's cooked, and the tomato cider that you made is returned to its original form when you blended it by adding that water and letting the cooking process take place. So now I'm going to add the final touches to it. 50 ml of red wine vinegar, a pinch of salt, black pepper, and now add the herbs that you chopped. It's very important to get the herbs in there while it's still hot so that they release their flavour. I'm turning all of these things over to infuse the flavours, but I'm not going to add the eggplant yet, and there's a good reason for that which I'll explain in a minute. It's been beautifully thinly sliced and batted out a little bit with a meat mallet just to make it nice and thin and tenderise it. So we're going to crumb it. Anybody that doesn't know about crumbing, the process is flour, then egg, then breadcrumbs. But it's very important to shake off any excess of each one before you put it into the next. Now I'm going to add the eggplant to the caponata. The reason I didn't want to do it when it came straight off the stove was it was very hot, and I don't want to puree, break down the eggplant. I want to keep them nice and whole. And turn it over. There's enough for 4 here if you're having other things before or after. So now we're going to cook the veal, and that oil that we saved from the cooking process, we haven't wasted any oil yet. It's all gone in here, and there's the stuff that we used for the eggplant. Back in the pan, I'm using a non-stick pan because I know all of you at home have got one. You want to cook the veal quickly. If you put it in the pan and it's too cold, you'll end up with a very leathery, overcooked meat. You need to cook it fast so that the breadcrumbs go brown and you still retain the juices. Okay, so now we're going to put it all on the plate. So take some of your caponata and a couple of your crumbed pieces of veal, all cooked in extra virgin olive oil. And here's some beautiful pepperonata that we made today. There you have it. Caponata with crumbed veal from Hayter's Hill, served with pepperonata, all using organic produce, except celery, from Byron Bay Farmers Markets at Belongil Bistro.